Ladies and gentlemen, don't die before your death. That's not just a phrase, it's a warning, a call to awaken from the passive sleep of numb existence. Because the graveyard isn't the only place filled with the dead. Some are walking around with their eyes open, lungs full of air, but hearts that haven't beaten with purpose in years. They've silenced their spirit with comfort, killed their ambition with excuses, and buried their potential beneath layers of fear. You don't need a casket to give up on yourself. Here are two types of people: those who experience pain and allow it to sharpen them, and those who experience pain and allow it to bury them. If you've been wounded, abandoned, betrayed, humiliated, good. That means you're human. That means you're still in the game, but don't let those scars turn into shackles. Pain is not a signal to quit. It's a signal to evolve. The deeper the wound, the stronger the foundation you can build upon. But you must choose to build. You must choose to live. Existing is not the same as living. Waking up, going to work, scrolling your life away, numbing yourself with distractions, that's not life. That's a slow fade into irrelevance. You were not born to be mediocre. You were not created to simply pass time. You were given breath, intelligence, willpower. For what? To pay bills and die. No! You were given those gifts to overcome chaos, to create order, to contribute to something greater than yourself. But that requires you to confront your fears. It requires that you stand face to face with the question, what am I avoiding? And then charge into the fire. Because only through that confrontation do you find out who you really are. You cannot become your potential by hiding from discomfort. You cannot rise without struggle. A life without risk is a life without reward. Many people bury themselves beneath a someday. Someday I'll try. Someday I'll speak. Someday I'll act. But a someday is a thief. It will rob you of everything if you let it. There is no later. There is only now. Right now is the only place life happens. The only time you can take action. The only moment you can claim back your soul from the dullness of survival. So what does it mean to not die before your death? It means you start living with intent. You start saying what you believe, doing what matters, facing what scares you. You stop waiting for motivation and start moving with discipline. You stop tolerating misery and start pursuing meaning. You take full responsibility for your mind, your time, your future when you choose to live with eyes wide open. You will see that the world is not your enemy. It is your battlefield. And every day you wake up is another chance to fight. Not to fight others, but to fight the decay inside you. The fear, the laziness, the despair. You are at war with the part of you that wants to give up. And the moment you stop fighting is the moment you start dying, long before the breath leaves your lungs. But if you rise each day and speak truth, live deliberately, and walk through adversity with your head held high, you will not die before your death. You will live fully, fiercely. And when your final breath does come, it won't come as a tragedy. It will come as a punctuation mark on a life well fought. Don't die before your death. Live until the very end. Many individuals surrender mentally and emotionally long before they reach the end of their physical lives. This kind of surrender doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens slowly, quietly, often invisibly. It begins with a loss of curiosity, a refusal to learn something new. It continues with small compromises. Silencing your voice in a conversation where you had something to say, avoiding responsibility when it was your turn to lead, choosing comfort over challenge, and distraction over focus. Over time, these small decisions accumulate and form a kind of spiritual inertia. You wake up one day, and though your body is functioning, your inner world feels lifeless, mechanical. You go through routines, but your heart's no longer in them. You talk to people, but you don't truly connect. You're alive in the biological sense, but something essential in you has gone silent. This condition of inner death is more common than people realize, and it can disguise itself well. It wears the face of I'm fine, the mask of a just busy, and the cloak of a that's just how life is. But underneath these familiar phrases lies a deeper truth. Something has been lost. And what has been lost is the will to fully engage with life. Not just to survive, but to be present, purposeful, and powerful. This kind of disengagement is dangerous because it spreads. When a person starts dying on the inside, it doesn't just affect them. It impacts everyone around them. Their relationships become transactional, their work becomes a burden, their time becomes filled with distractions rather than development. And without realizing it, they begin to shrink from life. They stop dreaming, stop planning, stop pursuing anything that stirs the soul. But this isn't irreversible. The remarkable thing about being human is that while we don't get to choose when we physically die, we do get to choose when we start living again. We can choose to reclaim our agency, to wake up and say, not another day like this. That moment of decision is powerful. It's the turning point. It's when someone says, I've had enough of dying while I'm still breathing. And it's often sparked by pain. Pain can be a teacher. It tells us something's wrong, that our way of thinking, living, or relating needs to change. And if we listen to that message, really listen, it can become the catalyst for transformation. Revival starts small. It begins with a new thought, a single decision, a shift in perspective. It's saying yes to a challenge you once avoided, reading something that expands your mind, apologizing where you've been wrong, or admitting that you're lost and need help. These acts may seem minor, but they are signs of life returning, of the soul stirring once again. And from there, momentum builds, purpose grows, courage returns, the eyes begin to see differently, and the heart begins to feel again. So if you recognize yourself in this message, don't despair. You're not too far gone. You're not broken beyond repair. So you're simply at a crossroads. Surrender to decay or choose renewal. Don't let your story end while you're still in the middle of writing it. Don't become your own undertaker, burying your dreams before they've had a chance to live. You are more capable, more resilient, more valuable than you've been led to believe. It's time to rise. Not someday, not tomorrow, but now. Choose to live, choose to engage, choose to awaken, because you haven't reached the end unless you stop walking. Keep going. The best chapters are still unwritten. Fear has a unique ability to shrink our lives without us noticing. It doesn't always announce itself loudly. It often whispers quietly in our minds. What if I fail? Or what will people think? I'm not ready. These whispers, though subtle, are powerful. They shape the choices we make, the opportunities we avoid, and the potential we never explore. Fear keeps us within the borders of the familiar. It convinces us that safety lies in repetition, that risk is reckless, and that discomfort must always be avoided. Over time, this mindset turns our lives into small rooms with locked doors. We decorate the walls with excuses and call it realism. We justify our hesitation by saying it's just not the right time, or I'm not the kind of person who can do that. And without realizing it, we live half-lives where dreams are postponed, talents are buried, and purpose is deferred. But what if fear isn't a sign to stop, but a signal to pay attention? What if fear is not the enemy, but the compass pointing us toward growth? Fear appears most strongly at the edge of our comfort zone, that invisible line that separates what we know from what is possible. On the other side of that line is everything that could be: greater confidence, deeper fulfillment, a stronger sense of meaning. But fear builds a wall at the boundary and dares us to stay behind it. The truth is, we don't eliminate fear by waiting for it to disappear. We weaken it by confronting it with action, not reckless action, but courageous, deliberate steps forward. Action is the antidote to fear because it rewires the brain. Every time you take a step despite being afraid, you teach yourself a new story, that you can survive discomfort, that you are capable of doing hard things, and that fear is not fatal. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about choosing to move forward even when fear is present. It's acknowledging the nervousness and doubt, and then making the decision to act anyway. Courage is built in those small daily moments when you choose truth over avoidance, growth over stagnation, and authenticity over approval. And the more you do this, the stronger you become, not just emotionally, but spiritually. You begin to realize that fear is a natural part of becoming more. It shows up every time you're about to stretch, every time you're close to change, every time you're about to evolve into a stronger version of yourself. The question isn't whether you feel fear. The question is what you do with it. Do you let it make your choices for you, or do you let it become the reason you change? People often think that bold individuals are born brave, but the reality is different. Bold people are usually the ones who simply decided that fear wouldn't be the loudest voice in their lives. They felt the fear just like everyone else, but they spoke louder. They acted anyway. They started small with the voice shaking and the hands trembling. And slowly their actions built resilience, built identity. Eventually that identity becomes unshakable, not because fear disappeared, but because they became stronger than it. So wherever you are in life, don't wait for fear to vanish. Don't wait for the conditions to be perfect or for the nerves to disappear. Start now. Speak even if your voice shakes. Try even if you might fail. Show up even if you're uncertain, because fear might visit, but it doesn't get to lead. You do. And once you start acting from purpose instead of protection, everything begins to shift. Possibilities emerge. Doors open. Growth accelerates. Growth accelerates. Fear will always be there, but it doesn't have to control you. Choose to lead your life, not hide from it. Choose to walk with fear, not bow to it. This is how freedom begins. Self-worth is not something given to you. It is something you must claim. It is not dependent on the validation of others, nor does it rely on external achievements. You don't become worthy after reaching a certain milestone or after earning someone's approval. You are worthy now as you are. The problem is, most people are not taught to believe this. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek worth through comparison, through competition, through external acknowledgement. We learn to measure ourselves against unrealistic standards of success, beauty, intelligence, or influence. And in doing so, we hand over the keys to our self-esteem to others. If someone praises us, we feel valuable. If someone criticizes us, we question everything. This dependence becomes a dangerous cycle where your sense of self becomes fragile, always at the mercy of someone else's opinion. That's not freedom. That's not power. That's quiet slavery to the perceptions of the world. To break free, you have to begin speaking to yourself differently. You have to recognize that the voice in your head is the most influential voice you'll ever hear. If it constantly echoes doubt, shame, and fear, then those seeds will shape your reality. But if that voice speaks truth, encouragement, and clarity, then you begin to walk in alignment with your own identity. That shift doesn't happen accidentally. It happens intentionally when you start to challenge the beliefs you've absorbed. When you stop asking, am I good enough? And start declaring, so I am worthy because I exist. I am enough because I was created with purpose. You don't need to earn your place in this world. You already have it. Your uniqueness, your perspective, your story, all of it matters. And the more you embrace that truth, the less you seek approval outside of yourself. This is not about arrogance. It's about reclaiming responsibility for how you see yourself. When you stop outsourcing your worth, you become unshakable. You begin to show up in the world differently. You make decisions that reflect your values instead of your fears. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop hiding the parts of yourself that others might not understand. And most importantly, you stop settling for less than you deserve, whether it's in relationships and opportunities or in the way you allow others to speak to you. Because now you know your value. Now you are rooted in something deeper than applause or recognition. Building this internal foundation takes practice. You must consistently speak blessings over yourself, even when it feels unnatural. You must become the encourager you never had. You must look in the mirror and speak to yourself not with criticism, but with compassion. This is how transformation begins from the inside out. No one else can do it for you. You are the only one who gets to decide how you interpret your story. You are the only one who can rewrite the narrative. And when you do, the world begins to reflect that shift. People treat you how you teach them to. If you see yourself as powerful, valuable, and worthy, others begin to respond to that energy. So speak life, speak purpose, speak identity. Your words are not just noise, they are seeds. What you plant in your inner world will determine what grows in your outer world. When you learn to speak to yourself with love, strength, and truth, you no longer wait for the world to tell you who you are. You already know. That knowing becomes your greatest power. Most people walk through life carrying the weight of fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. This fear is subtle. It disguises itself as hesitation, as self-doubt, as perfectionism. But at its core, it is a belief that you are not ready, not qualified, not worthy. And so you shrink, you play small, you wait. You postpone your dreams until some imaginary moment when everything aligns perfectly, when you feel completely confident, when the timing is right, when you have everyone's support. But here's the hard truth. That moment never comes. Confidence is not a prerequisite to action. It is a result of action. Waiting for fear to disappear before you move forward is like waiting for darkness to leave before you turn on the light. It doesn't work that way. You turn the light on despite the darkness. You move forward in the presence of fear. Fear is not your enemy. It is a signal. It tells you that you're stepping into the unknown, that you're pushing beyond what is familiar and comfortable, and that is exactly where growth happens. If you always wait until you're ready, you'll be stuck in preparation mode forever. Real growth begins when you step out, even when you're unsure, even when your voice shakes, even when you don't have all the answers. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to move with fear. It's showing up not because you have no doubt, but because what you're building matters more than your comfort. That's the shift. That's the breakthrough. You must become someone who chooses purpose over comfort, vision over security. Every time you act in the face of fear, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than it. And over time, you begin to build trust with yourself. You begin to realize that you can survive discomfort, uncertainty, and risk. And that realization is what makes you unstoppable. Fear no longer becomes a barrier. It becomes a doorway. It becomes a doorway. A doorway to discovering who you truly are beyond the limitations you once accepted, beyond the old narratives that said you can't or you're not ready, you're not good enough. You begin to rewrite the story. You begin to take ownership of your life. The world will try to keep you in line, keep you playing safe, staying small, obeying the rules written by people who never had the courage to pursue their own calling. But your life is not a rehearsal. This is it. You don't get to live today twice. And if you let fear dictate your choices, you'll find yourself living a life of regret, wondering what could have been if you had just tried. So don't let fear stop you. Acknowledge it, yes. Respect it even, but don't bow to it. Let it ride in the passenger seat if it must, but never give it the wheel. Your vision must drive you, your purpose must lead you, and your courage must carry you. When you talk to yourself, when you look in the mirror, when you reflect on who you are and who you're becoming, speak like someone who's not willing to settle. Speak as someone who's made up their mind that fear will not make their decisions for them anymore. Speak with intention. Speak with fire. Speak with a deep, unshakable belief that no matter how uncertain the path, you will find your footing because you trust yourself to walk through it. And that trust will carry you further than any perfect plan ever could. There's a part of you that has not been given the permission to live fully. It's the version of you that dreams bigger, that believes deeper, that dares louder. But for most people, that part gets buried under expectations, societies, families, even your own. We begin to internalize what we think we're supposed to be. We trade authenticity for approval, and in the process, we lose ourselves. You start waking up not as the person you were meant to be, but as a reflection of everything you've been told to become. Slowly, you begin to silence your voice. You suppress your truth. You hide your scars. You hide your scars. But the tragedy isn't just that we lose connection to ourselves. It's that we live our lives performing for a world that never took the time to understand us. And when you perform long enough, you forget the difference between the role and the reality. This is why it's essential to take time to remember who you are beneath the layers. You are not your job. You are not your follower count. You are not someone else's version of success. You are not the mistakes you made or the opinions people hold about you. You are something far more sacred. You are the culmination of resilience, of experience, of love, of dreams, of pain you've endured and overcame. And that story deserves to be told, not the polished one, not the filtered one, but the raw, real, powerful truth that lives in your chest. And telling that story starts with giving yourself permission to show up as you. Not who they expect, not who they praise, just you. Because freedom is found not in becoming something else, but in returning to who you were before the world told you to shrink. The most revolutionary thing you can do in a world that constantly tries to mold you is to simply be yourself, to speak your truth even when it's not popular, to hold your values even when they're challenged, to pursue your path even if no one walks it with you at first. When you begin to live that way, people might not understand you. Some might resist you. Some might even leave. But the people who remain, those are your people. And more importantly, you remain the real you. And that's a life worth living. That's a legacy worth leaving. That's a legacy worth leaving. Authenticity isn't about being loud. It's about being true. It's the courage to say, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is how I choose to live. And that courage begins when you stop outsourcing your worth. You stop waiting for validation to feel valuable. You stop needing applause to feel enough. Because when your worth comes from within, no one can take it from you. No rejection can shake it. No failure can erase it. That is the kind of strength that doesn't shout, it simply stands tall. That is the kind of power that doesn't need to dominate. It just radiates truth. So stop hiding the parts of you that are different. Stop apologizing for your dreams, your depth, your sensitivity, your ambition. Those are not your weaknesses. They are your gifts. And the more you live from them, the more you give others permission to do the same. That is how change happens. Not through force, but through example. And not by yelling, but by being. So be bold. Be kind. Be unshakably you. Because that version of you, that's the one the world is waiting for. Every day you are given the opportunity to choose your perspective. That's your power, and yet so many people forget that it even exists. They wake up in the morning and immediately surrender to the weight of yesterday, the disappointments, the criticisms, the regrets. But understand this, if your mind is your battlefield, then your thoughts are your soldiers. And who's commanding them? Are you letting fear lead the charge? Are you letting doubt call the shots? Because if you don't take authority over your own inner dialogue, the world will do it for you. You'll absorb every negative label, every limiting belief, every subtle message that says you're not enough. And before long, you're not just hearing those thoughts, you're living them. It starts so subtly. You tell yourself, I can't, and suddenly you don't. You say, I'm not that type of person, and you never become one. You whisper, maybe I'm not good enough, and that whisper becomes your reality. But here's the truth. Those aren't facts. They're stories. And just like stories, they can be rewritten. You can talk to yourself in a new way. You can decide that your voice will be the loudest one in your mind. Not your fears, not your failures, not your critics, yours. Speak to yourself like someone who believes in your potential. Speak to yourself like someone who sees your worth even when you can't. That's not ego. That's mental discipline. That's emotional intelligence. That's what it means to take your power back. Every successful person, every strong leader, every grounded soul has one thing in common. They have learned to master their internal narrative. They've trained their minds to serve their mission instead of sabotage it. They wake up and tell themselves, I am capable, even when they don't feel it. They repeat, I am worthy, even when the world says otherwise. They declare, I will rise, even after falling. And eventually those words become habits. Those habits become identity, and that identity becomes destiny. But it all starts with a decision to speak to yourself differently, to become the author of your own story. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending everything is perfect when it's not. It's about choosing to be intentional with your words because words are seeds. Speak defeat, and you'll harvest doubt. Speak fear, and you'll grow anxiety. But speak life, and you'll begin to feel alive again. Speak possibility, and you'll begin to move with hope. You don't have to lie to yourself. You have to lift yourself. You have to talk to yourself like someone who's not giving up this time. Like someone who knows they've got a fight in them still. Like someone who knows that what's ahead might be difficult, but they are more difficult. You'll face resistance. You'll face the inner voice that says, what's the point? That's when you speak louder. That's when you remind yourself that your words matter, that your thoughts shape your focus and your focus shapes your life. So today and every day after this, talk to yourself like it matters, because it does. Say, yeah, I have purpose. Say, I will make it through. Say, I am becoming better than I was yesterday. Speak blessings over your journey, even when the path is unclear. And remember, every time you do, you're not just changing your mindset, you're changing your life. There is a quiet power in repetition, and yet most people use it against themselves without even realizing it. They repeat the same story of their limitations, their failures, their wounds, and they reinforce a reality that no longer serves them. But what if you could reverse that? What if the words you repeat to yourself every day became your strength instead of your struggle? You see, the brain doesn't know the difference between truth and belief. It only knows what you tell it over and over again. And whatever you speak with emotion and consistency, it begins to accept as your reality. That's why your self-talk matters more than any motivational video or external praise. Because what you hear every day from your own mouth holds more weight than anything the outside world says. Think about how many times you've said things like, I'm not enough. I always fail, or I don't deserve better. That wasn't the truth. That was a habit. And habits, even mental ones, can be broken and rebuilt. You have to take ownership of the script running in your mind. You have to become the editor of your own thoughts. The process is simple, but not easy. You start by replacing those broken declarations with ones that serve you. I am growing, I am learning, I am still standing. At first it might feel fake, even foolish. But so did those old thoughts in the beginning. They just had more time to take root. Now it's time to plant new seeds and protect them. This kind of mental discipline isn't loud. It's not about shouting affirmations in front of the mirror every morning and pretending to feel powerful. It's about speaking to yourself with consistency, with calm, with conviction, even when you don't see immediate results, especially then. Because change happens in the silence, in the repetition, in the unseen work. It's in those quiet moments before bed, or when you're walking alone, or when things go wrong and you whisper, I'll figure it out, instead of, here we go again. It's in the words you choose when you fail. It's in how you talk to yourself when no one is watching. That's where the shift begins. Not overnight, but over time. You must understand that repetition rewires the mind. What you feed it, it becomes hungry for. Feed it bitterness, and it will crave more bitterness. Feed it courage, and it will begin to look for strength even in the hardest situations. That's not magic. It's neuroscience. You train your focus by what you repeat. You train your emotions by what you affirm. You train your future by what you declare in the present. So ask yourself honestly, what are you repeating to yourself every day? Is it helping you rise, or is it keeping you small? You are not a fixed identity. You are a dynamic being, shaped daily by what you choose to focus on, speak on, and believe in. If you want to change your life, you have to start with what you say to yourself about yourself. Repetition is your ally or your enemy. It all depends on what you repeat. Start saying what you need to hear. Start repeating the words you wish someone else would tell you. Start affirming your strength, your purpose, your potential. Because the more you do, the more your subconscious begins to listen. And once your mind believes it, your actions will follow. It all begins with repetition. Speak life until you believe it. Repeat greatness until you become it.